This particular module that you're watching is about tips for preparing for a computer-adapted exam. As you may know, the exams administered by the Board of Certification of Emergency Nursing, BCEN, those exams are all computer-adapted. In fact, today most nursing certification exams are computer-adapted. What does that mean? It means when you go take your exam, you will be taking it on the computer. So what I want to do today is just give you a few tips about how to manage a computer-adapted exam. Now on your screen right now, you should see an example of what it is going to look like the day you take the exam. Now the first thing you're going to notice is up there in the corner is a picture. Yes, on the day of the exam, they will take your picture, and yes, they will post your picture on every flippin' page of that exam. So make sure you look good, because if you don't, you're going to look at yourself for 3 hours looking bad. Now, on a computer-adapted exam, each question will get its own screen. So you'll get a screen with the question and the 4 choices. You're going to notice on the bottom, there's another bar that has a lot of useful tools for you. The first tells you how far you are in the exam. So you can see in this example, you're on question 112 out of 175 questions. Now, notice on that bar along the bottom, it also says that you have 92 minutes remaining. Watch that clock closely, because remember that you will only have 3 hours to take your BCEN exams. And while I know 180 minutes seems like a long time, I would remind you that the BCEN exams have 175 questions. So do some simple math. 175 questions, 180 minutes, that gives you 1 minute per question with 5 minutes for throwing up in between, right? You're also going to notice on that bar along the bottom, there's a little green back arrow and a little green forward arrow. Now, what those allow you to do is to navigate through the pages of the exam. So obviously the back arrow is going to let you go back one screen at a time and look at questions that you've already answered. So you can just keep scrolling back. If you were on a paper and pencil exam, it would be just like turning back the page one page. I don't recommend you use the back arrow. Why? Because there's a lot of truth when people say that if you change your answer, you're statistically more likely to have the question right the first time than when you change it. So if you use the back arrow and begin doubting the questions that you've already answered and change them, you could end up doing yourself harm. You can go back and change answers. That's allowed. That's why the back arrow is there. I strongly recommend you do not use the back arrow. I call it the graveyard. Once you've answered a question, put it in the graveyard. It's done. Don't think about it again. Don't dwell on it. Don't question yourself. Stick with your first inclination. And statistically, you'll probably do better on the exam than if you go back and look at questions a second time. Now, the forward arrow, as you would expect, allows you to move forward to the next question. Of course, you're going to do this after you answer the question. You're going to want to move on to the next question with the forward arrow. But did you know that you can also use the forward arrow even if you don't answer the question? So I do recommend you use this little button. If you see a question and you have no idea what the answer is, it might as well be written in Greek, right? You have no idea what it is. Skip it. Just use the forward arrow and go on to the next question without answering that one. What happens is when you reach the end of the exam, when you've gone through all 175 questions, you will get a screen that shows you all 175 questions, and it will show you which ones you haven't answered. And then what you can do is you can use that screen to navigate back to the questions you skipped. At this point, you're going to know how much time you have left. Let's say that you left 15 questions unanswered the first time through, and you still have 45 minutes left. Well, now you know how long you have to struggle on the questions that you had difficulty with. And hopefully, one of the questions you did answer jogged your memory and allows you to remember something that will help you to answer that more difficult question. Well, I hope you found this information a little bit helpful as you maneuver through a computer-adapted exam, and I hope you watch the rest of our series for a lot of other hints and tips on taking a certification exam.